My name is Dr. Zivotofsky. I'm a mixed animal veterinarian based in Ma'ale Adumim and the general Jerusalem vicinity. I split my time between seeing dogs and cats in our office here in Ma'ale Adumim and also doing house calls. I'm in the office 3 days a week, and the rest of the time I drive around where people call me to see their animals. I see on the road pets, dogs and cats, sometimes birds, hamsters, rabbits, that sort of thing, and also sheep and goats, horses, camels. My background is sort of mixed. When I first came out of school, I had thought to be a strictly large animal veterinarian. I sort of had a dream maybe that was based on my Jewish day school education in New York, where they would show us films of Chalutzim and kibbutzim. That's what I could do in Israel. And so when I came out of school, I worked for 6 years in a large mixed animal practice in rural Pennsylvania, where my job was mostly seeing dairy cattle and farm animals, but there were 12 or 13 doctors there, and we split their time. There were 5 or 6 that spent their time mostly with pets, and there were 5 or 6 of us that were on the road that spent their time mostly with farm animals, and I was mostly doing farm animals at that time. I spent a little bit of time in the office. And after I left there, I worked in New York City. I worked at the racetrack, seeing just racehorses for about 5 or 6 years before I finally made Aliyah. And since I've been in Israel, I've been doing what I described, spending my time here in Ma'ale Adumim in the office seeing pets, and also I'm seeing horses and farm animals outside of the office. As you asked me earlier, to give an example of some situations that are heartbreaking. I think it's always heartbreaking when people have to put their animal to sleep, when the dog dies that they've had for a lot of years. Just in the last couple of weeks, it seems there were a lot of examples of people who had a pet for 18 or 19 years. Both dogs and cats that had lived that long, that had been in the family since they were just a baby. And I think that a lot of, particularly clients that I have here in Israel, either sometimes they're religious people or Israelis that didn't have a pet before, and this animal came into their life and really changed their life and became a part of their family, and they never anticipated how difficult it would be when they finally had to say goodbye. See, a pet doesn't live as long as a human being does, you know. And sometimes there was one family, I don't think they ever had a dog before, and this dog came into their life, and when he was only 5 or 6, he had a congenital disease, and he was gone, and it was very difficult for them, and I seemed to be a part of that situation. But when you said heartbreaking, I guess I thought of it from 2 perspectives. From the perspective of the family that I'm sharing it with, that's an example. But something that is sort of heartbreaking for me as a veterinarian, that has been sort of a new experience for me in Israel and happens to me way too often, is I've often been called to see an animal. Usually it's a horse, but not necessarily. The horse is quote unquote very sick, or he's unable to get up, right? And they think he has a terrible disease, and they call it the veterinarian, and he's just starved to death. That they didn't realize what the proper way to care for him was. And I've seen number of horses that either died, or I put them to sleep, and I have pictures of them, and it's horrible. Like, I can't imagine, how could it be, even if you've never had a horse before, you look at it and you see how skinny it is. Don't you realize that there must be something wrong in the way you're feeding it to bring it to that condition? So for me, that's difficult, because these animals clearly suffered only because of ignorance. Okay, you asked me also to give some examples of things that were very rewarding or a wonderful experience, and for me, it's always when there are baby animals in the picture, it's always a rewarding experience. And examples where a veterinarian might be involved would be a difficult birth, where people call to help. And I think of one example here near Jerusalem. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and they were waiting and waiting for the baby, and it couldn't get out. The baby's head was out, and the rest of it couldn't come. And it was a struggle till I worked for almost an hour and a half till we turned it around and straightened out the legs, and then he was able to come out with a lot of effort from the neighbors pulling. But in the end, he came out, he sheared off his umbilicus, and there was blood spurting, and we stitched it. In the end, he was okay, the mother was okay, and everybody involved was happy. And same kind of thing, a lot of times with difficult birth, we end up doing a cesarean section, either here or in a farm. The baby's alive, the mother's alive, so everybody goes home happy. Okay, you asked here, let's see, let me see. Difference of raising pets in Israel versus America. I don't know if there's much of a big difference. I think there are differences, let's say, in people that raise a pet, let's say, in a more rural area, like we do a lot of work in the Yeshuvim north of Ma'ale Adumim, Mateb Yamin, and also quite a bit in Gush Etzion, where people have more room, or versus animals that live in a city in a tiny apartment. But I think those kind of things, just the same as they might be anybody else in the world. You did mention, if I think I have a recommendation, let's say, if a person wants to get a pet, where to adopt a pet. Could we cut it for a second? Is that okay?
Go ahead, of course.
Just let me grab that phone from in here.
Oh, it's here.
Mirba'a. Shalom. כן, מדבר. מ-4-8. אתם מוזמנים לבוא. כן. אוקיי. לא צריך לקבוע, אתם יכולים להגיע. אוקיי. אוקיי, נראה תביא אותו, נבדוק אותו ונראה... מצוין. Okay, bye. You did ask me though what I think if people want to adopt a pet, a dog or a cat, where they should get it from. Purebred versus not purebred. I would say there are so many animals looking for a family that there's no need to go to someone who breeds dogs specifically for that purpose. Unless you need a dog for a specific purpose. Like for example, I have clients that raise sheep and they want a particular dog either that does guarding, but is a sheepdog that won't eat the sheep, or one that knows how to herd sheep. So if it has a particular function, maybe the reason to get a purebred dog. Otherwise, I think it's a mistake. That there, I think in Sabbath, I think in Yerushalayim, you were there. I think they have maybe 300 dogs looking for a home, and the truth is here also. Even on our bulletin board, we have lots of people that have signs that they have puppies that are looking for a home. So. I always think it's the best way to go, and the truth is that a mixed breed dog tends to be, on average, healthier. Raga tends to be happier than a purebred dog. And we always said that theoretically. Scientifically, there's something called hybrid vigor, where if you mix two different, if they have different genetics from different backgrounds, even like a Sephardi and an Ashkenazi, they get married, they have children, right? They're less likely to have genetic diseases, right? The same sort of thing, that mixing of genes makes for a stronger person or animal. But someone actually did a study where they followed dogs, mixed breed dogs, and versus purebred dogs for their entire life. And on average, the mixed breed dogs lived a year longer than what had been expected from a dog of the same sex, the same age, the same whatever, than the purebred dogs did. And they also had less of the chronic diseases that you see as when dogs get older. You tell me anything else you want me to that I could address.
Yeah, anything that you feel people should know, and advice on raising an animal.
Advice on raising an animal. Well, the truth is good question. I think the bit, huh? Exactly. I think the most important thing is to give the animal tender, loving care. Like a pet, it's got to feel like he's part of the family. I don't quite get it, but a lot of times you see people take a dog into the family and he's tied to a stake outside the house. And I can't imagine he's happy about that. So, right, I think that's probably the most important thing. And good nutrition is always the basis of good health. Right from when the dog's a puppy, certainly to give him good quality food. And hygiene. That's more if animals are outside, but certainly a clean place to live, fresh water, good quality food, and lots of love. Positive reinforcement.
All right, so what your typical day, just in 30 seconds.
Okay.
A typical day of you.
I gotta say, I don't have a typical day. It depends who calls in the morning, usually. Because oftentimes, depending on who calls, I'll decide what direction to go for that day. But typically, I'll probably do a house calls in the morning. If it's a day that I'm in the office in the afternoons, 3 days a week. For example, let's say today, I saw a sick kitten in Jerusalem, and then I went to see a donkey in Alon Shuot.
What?
I went to see a donkey in Alon Shuot. which is in Gush Etzion. And from there, I was scheduled to go see a camel in Mitzpeh Yericho, which is about 15 minutes out of Ma'ale Adumim. Didn't pan out. In the end, I went to see some other dogs in Nechlot, in the heart of Jerusalem, and then I came here. But I would say it gets divided. Some days I might spend a whole day just seeing horses, and some days I spend a whole day just seeing sheep and goats, and most days it's a hodgepodge. I see some dogs, some cats, some sheep, goats, and sometimes some parrots. Some of the work I do is seeing what's called Pinat Chai, like a petting zoo, which a lot of schools, it's become popular. A lot of schools have it, and also there's some communities that have one. And there's a variety of animals, anything from they have deer, or donkeys, or horses, or goats, or sheep, that people in the community come to see. So I guess part of why I like what I do is that there's a lot of variety. I don't sit in an office all day, but I see a lot of variety in the places I go to, the people that I see, and the animals that they have. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.